All right, so full spoilers ahead for Horizon Zero Dawn. But we all played this game, completed it recently, so I just want to talk about it. And
yeah, it's worth. Yeah, it's been out for a little while, but it's a game worth mentioning just because it's really awesome.
Well,
and it's got a redhead.
Also, it's very story heavy.
Yeah.
So especially if you haven't played it, then you don't want to know, anything about the game.
The story is
very important.
It was very. The reveal was very satisfying. I had a rough idea of where it was going, but I did not know precisely what
I could not predict it from a mile away, too.
I mean, I knew it was like a post-apocalyptic environment scenario, but I didn't know if it was like, hey, are these humans that like lingered on later and they just rebuilt society from the ground up, or is like I didn't think the end game like humanity was donezo and then restarted from scratch.
Yeah, it was bonkers.
I mean, you've got the entire team of scientists down there, and they're actually like entertaining the idea of how do we prepare for a doomsday scenario to make sure the species lives on. And like even that thought process, the audio diaries, I was thinking about that. I was like, wow, just the mentality and the pressure of this, mankind is riding on them to pull this out.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I'm really glad that I quit this game for a period from about maybe a month or so, because I got stuck on this one boss and I couldn't beat it, and I just got really frustrated, so I started playing Persona.
And I kept chastising you. I was like, just play it, man.
And I was like, how good can it really be? Like, it's just a video game. It's but a game.
Just a video game.
And then I finally got back into it. It was right when the Deathbringer happened, so then that's when the story really picks up,
Yeah.
So I was really glad I picked it back up.
It was literally like the mission where stuff is revealed to be very important.
Oh yeah, it goes 0 to 60.
I'll say right now, Jonathan sucks at the game.
I do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really bad at like first-person like shooters and just reflex-based
It's not a first-person
If
shooter.
the game comes down to
Or any like reflexive thing, right?
If we turn a corner and the game, my victory is predicated on me pointing my cursor on your head and pulling the trigger first, like I'm always gonna lose. I'll say that.
I feel like I'm pretty good at that kind of thing. So I found Horizon to be exceptionally easy.
Right.
But I feel like that actually improved the experience. Horizon is a very easy game. The systems are not that complicated.
No,
and
they're not.
A lot of people, it depends on the game, but they sort of.
Wait, did you play it on normal?
I played it on hard.
Yeah, I played it on hard
I played
too.
it easy.
So a lot of people sort of equate complexity
with difficulty?
Quality.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. For example, like
Inception.
Civilization, or like Gravity's Rainbow, or like these books or movies that are like very difficult. They sort of equate that to depth, which is maybe true to some extent, but it says something about Horizon that I feel like the systems are not particularly super deep. They're as deep as they need to be.
You're right.
And they're as interwoven and synergistic as they need to be to sort of lubricate the experience of feeling the story, of being in Aloy's shoes, of feeling like you're this hunter in this strange world that is, our world ostensibly has been destroyed.
And you're also,
in the future.
you're an outcast in
exactly.
a world of like separate tribe. And I like the feel for that, because at first I thought it was only like purely matriarchal society. I didn't realize like how far this went. And the world opens up, and you really get a feel for how the different groups, colonies interact with each other.
And it's
that was a fascinating.
I think it's a thing that you would appreciate, is that this touches on a lot of social commentary.
Yes.
That a lot of times in our culture is very heavy-handed and just like not good. It's very like leaning on those tropes of like, just like hardcore feminism or something like that.
And it wasn't that. I didn't get that feel.
This was very implicit in those same things and more convincing, because it was sort of, it was a matriarchal society, but there are also bad parts to that society as well.
It's like
pros and cons.
Yeah, it's like overly sort of like zealous and sort of dogmatic.
Well, and they're highly religious too. And
Exactly.
it deconstructed that, and it poked fun at it too, because Aloy's the outsider.
She's just like a young millennial, sort of just being like, what is going on?
But she sees more clearly than everyone
Yeah.
else. She knows actually what's going on. And unfortunately, she's, for a time, looked at as like a heretic for spreading this around. It's like, oh, how dare you question, I think it's like the All-Mother, the being. But it's like, she's brave enough to look past the, hey, I can question your belief system, because I didn't grow up in it as closely as you did. I've been outsider.
So that was actually one of my criticisms early on, was like, hey, why is, Aloy talking like this? How does she know that the world is round? How does she know? She like challenged assumptions in like a weird
She's no flat earther.
Right, and at first it like pulled me out of the game. I was like, no one in a post-apocalyptic world would like figure this out on their own. But then it kind of like made sense as the story went on. Like,
she's had a different
smart.
upbringing than the
She's
rest.
an outcast. She sees things
Outside
a
the box.
little differently, and she has that focus.
Yeah, which gives, it infinitely gives her an edge.
So, and by virtue of this game being, open world with a lot of different characters and different side quests that are, fairly memorable, it's this fairly socially progressive game, but it's not hammering you down with it.
No.
It's more so implicit in the world. It's like you meet these characters who represent sort of points of view, but they don't just outright say like, "Oh, I hate women," or
No,
"I
well,
hate."
yeah, they won't do it deliberately.
Yeah, or there's not a character that's like, "Oh, we need more diversity," you know?
Well, it's like the Hunter's Lodge is like a clear
Exactly.
example of like holding on to tradition, old ways of thinking. You know, you were definitely given the cold shoulder when you first get in there, but then you get in nice with a female member of the lodge, and that helps you like get.
So I feel like that kind of
ranks.
storytelling is more evergreen and more pertinent to the purity of the themes they're going for. Because really, it's not about women, and it's not about like a specific like colored race or anything like that. It's more so about like acceptance or open-mindedness. So it gets to the pure important parts of that idea rather than just like the gender or like skin color part of it that a lot of things tend to like focus, a lot of people tend to focus on nowadays.
Yeah.
It gets to really like feeling excluded. You know, that's a pure thing that everyone can relate to regardless of what your background is.
Yeah, and you said that everyone can relate to. I mean, at the end, there's this great message of unity and coming together. You know, common enemy makes for the best unifying force in a game.
Yeah, I mean, all that's true except for maybe like robots. Like they're not well represented. They're like messed up.
Yeah, to all humans. Terminator. It's Terminator robots.
It's like, do robots have a right, or you know,
No.
to exist and be sentient?
No.
They always
No.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, so sorry for all you Tinder bots and Ticketmaster scalpers out, like robot bots, scalpers out there. Like you are not represented.
Robots
in
are
the
the
game.
enemy. Robots are evil. Don't trust them.
There's always a bug.
Especially
a
when they
world-ending
look like
bug.
freaking saber-toothed cats with chainsaws.
Right.
I love the design, and after a while, you know, it's like I did love that idea of like, hey, how many? I kind of wish they didn't show like they have the database with all the potential enemies. I wish they didn't have like the question mark for the silhouettes of them, because that it's like, hey, you know, there are only this many enemies in the entire game. I would have liked the element of the unknown to keep on going, because I was surprised when I saw each new variety of creature out there, and that was great. That was exhilarating, because you have to learn new tactics, new approaches, try which weapons work, which ones don't. It's really, you know, there's quite a bit of strategy that goes into the game up to a certain point, and it becomes a bit more regimented over time, especially when you learn how to hack, which is great. Hacking at Death Rex, it's awesome.
So that's all a good point, but I feel like Horizon's success is that they know where to limit themselves.
Okay.
Right? It's incredibly polished, but for example, Witcher 3 is like just an amazing game
Masterpiece.
that I played like 5 hours of, because I just like couldn't see the edges. You know what I mean? And like it was so
You couldn't see the
huge,
limitations of the game.
Yeah,
and
scope
so
is
many
huge.
people, so many side quests, like countless, right?
And they're worthwhile. You know, they
Well,
don't feel
that's
like,
true.
They don't feel like trash
That's
quests.
what it
That's true,
Horizon.
but I still had that and I didn't want to progress because I just couldn't see the boundaries in it. Horizon, you could count the side quests, like in the, I 100%ed the game. It was my first platinum.
Nice.
But it was like 50 hours to platinum.
Yeah.
Fairly short game. Comparative to a lot of games that we're seeing like Fallout, you can put in like just hundreds, right?
You can put in your
Similarly,
life.
you can't see the edges in that, right?
Right.
So many side quests, countless.
And that can be
But
daunting for quite a few
for me, it was.
gamers. And
But for
I felt it
Horizon,
too.
in the 100% screen, you can see the stats, and there were like 20 side quests.
Yes.
There were like 9 or 15 main quests or something like that.
Yeah, give or take.
You could literally like see all these progress things going on,
Progress
and you're like,
bars.
oh, I know where the boundary is in this experience. So that really helped me invest in those singular experiences. Although there were fewer of them, they attracted more of my attention.
So I did literally zero side quests. I mainlined the main quest, and that's how I got through it. But,
You're
like,
one of those people.
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, like, you can't beat the Witcher 3 side quest. Like, that was like each thing was like one-off, amazing stories, and like to me, I was like, so what did you guys think of the side quests? Were they, you know, unique and like worth it to do?
They
all
were
of them?
unique in the maybe not what you're doing, but who you're meeting, locations.
Yeah, it's less about the actual
fleshing out the world
the
rather
activities
than
themselves, because there's only so many variations of like, hey, go kill this, or go transport this, or pick up these supplies.
I will agree that maybe Witchers were better in that there are these sort of one-shot side stories of, you know, these characters have little arcs that don't really matter to the bigger thing. Similarly in Horizon, but on a smaller scale, less complex scale. So I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
But it did, I mean, even though the tasks themselves weren't exactly, you know, genre breaking, but the content of the quest, yeah, like everything from like family politics to assassinations, it kept me interested. You know, I actually wanted to hear what they were talking about. I didn't just brush them aside. I scroll text. You know, didn't do that.
But so back to the main quest. I want to hear your guys' opinion on the main quest, because I mean, Aloy as a character is one of my favorite characters of all time, and it doesn't matter that she's a redheaded girl or anything.
It totally does.
I relate to her in so many different ways that I can sort of feel represented in someone who's so different from me.
Well, because
I feel like that's important.
She's a good character.
Yeah, I think that's important, and a lot of people sort of call for representation, which is fine. But I feel represented in someone who is so different from me. Sure. I think that's important.
That's a sign of a great character.
Yeah, and the stuff with Elizabeth Sobek, her mother, like I was saying with
her mother,
her quote unquote mother, clone mother, whatever. And same thing I was saying with Guardians, right? Sort of this intimate, very pure familial thing, and that also was very Amblin-esque to me, especially in the last post-credit thing where she sort of meets her mother for the first time. Like that is a very pure storytelling thing. Also, great sci-fi. I'm super into sci-fi,
it was
right?
great.
For sure, it was excellent.
So
the AI constructs,
not only great sci-fi ideas with Gaia and the reason for the machines being the way they are, following the natural evolution of the planet's needs, and they would naturally sort of represent these different animals' functions of replenishing oxygen and stuff like that, different functions of the world.
All based on the AI's blueprints and then the production of it. It was all for the benefit of restructuring the planet, rebuilding it for humanity.
So those are great sci-fi ideas, right? A lot of great sci-fi ideas suffer from bad execution, just in general. So it's not really the ideas that are important, but really great sci-fi doesn't speak to the time period in which it's set or the world in which it's set, any Ursula Le Guin writing or anything. It's about these Elseworld strange tales, but they speak a lot to our current world that we live in, and that's what sort of an author or a creator is trying to speak to in sci-fi. It's not any William Gibson thing is set 100 years in the future. It's about these Nero cyber ninjas or whatever, but it's not really about 2077. It's about today. It's about the result of these natural processes, how today's world sort of can be extrapolated into these sort of caricature, type settings in those sci-fi worlds. I feel like Horizon does that just perfectly in that these sort of environmental or corporate messages.
The corporate element.
Yeah, those are reflections of our society today, sort of extrapolated and turned to 11.
Yeah, corporations causing the downfall of society.
So it's not only about it's not about this nomadic traveler in future post whatever. It's about today.
Literal, right?
It's about today.
It's kind of the reverse of an Aesop's tale, but instead of the future, it's a cautionary tale. But no one gives a flying shit about what happened to a rabbit and a turtle that died 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Got eaten by a hawk or whatever. This is about today and how it could apply.
It's a future fable.
Humanity.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I appreciate
that. It is a Terminator-esque story about the machines, rising, becoming smarter than their creators, and then exterminating all of humankind. But it didn't feel cliche in the slightest. Every element in it was fresh. Even the developers of the AI system. I mean, they were based off, gods and deities. I mean, I think Hephaestus was one of the AI programs that dealt with construction.
Yeah, I think he was a master builder or something.
Yeah, and then the enemy, the main antagonist, Hades. That was a countermeasure put in place to keep Gaia in check from developing an overflow of light.
You must have loved that shit because it's like superhero cosmic forces, like Green Lantern stuff or whatever, of these larger than life forces kind of duking it out.
Keeping it balanced, because if Gaia makes, it was like a protocol in the game. If Gaia makes organic life and then it becomes faulty, or if it goes too far, Hades' job is to exterminate them all. That's in his programming, and Gaia can't do that because that would corrupt her. So it's the devil inside her own head, and she needs him. Creation and destruction, they have to balance each other out.
Yeah, yin and yang.
All right, so one thing about the story that I found similar to Guardians is that, there are these classic tales of being the chosen one.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And I always felt like that was sort of, that's sort of classic storytelling, but it's kind of not a good thing to have a chosen one main character, because it sort of says to everyone else who's watching the movie, maybe a kid or something who's watching it,
this is the only important person in the movie.
Oh yeah, the way to be good at life is just be the chosen one, and everyone else is just subhuman or whatever.
It's entitlement culture to the core.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's very much post World War II of you're the chosen one. Right, of you're important and you're this.
Yeah,
you're the
main protagonist of your own story. You're
the main character of the story.
Captain of your ship and your soul.
But really, what we're seeing nowadays with a lot of stories is things like Guardians, where Chris Pratt, he was essentially the chosen one, right? He's the son of a god, right? But, I mean, they sort of flip that on its head and say he sort of jettisons that responsibility and says, no, I'm going to choose my friends over being the chosen one. I'm going to choose, you know, the people I care about rather than being the central figure and taking over the universe.
His dad even
right?
said, you know, if you do this, you know, you'll be just like everybody else. And he says, what's so wrong with that?
In the same way, Horizon does that. She's the chosen one. She was born of machine. In this culture, like, she's like this larger than life weird figure that is unique.
And
but
everybody's freaked out by that.
Yeah,
too.
but she throws that away and she sort of chooses her friends and the world now and sort of loyalty to human beings that came before her rather than just trying to be like the chosen one.
Well, because she's a great person, you know, she doesn't let it get to her
She
head.
treats everyone like
greater good is important.
Yeah, she treats everyone equally and like how they should be treated. So she was just like the kind of person I wanted to be.
Yeah, she's a great role model.
Really awesome.
Huge get for Sony to have a mascot like that for like ever.
Seriously.
On now.
I think they tried to do that with like Heavenly Sword back in the day. You know, the redheaded like kick-ass protagonist, which is awesome, great game, but not nearly as well developed and fleshed out as Aloy. Like she's an extremely well-rounded, likable protagonist.
And it sucks for Fury from the new Darksiders game.
Yeah.
To have to live in Aloy's shadow.
Ooh,
That's next token redhead.
Don't envy that. Well, because she's not even like that's like a deity character. That's a larger than life, which is complete like contrast to what Aloy's going for.
Sure.
So Brad, did you ever play Monster Hunter?
Absolutely.
Okay, Monster Hunter. This is kind of like Monster Hunter, except with machines.
Light?
Yeah, Monster Hunter Light, because you know it's all about these plates and sort of elemental
components.
Elemental
it's not
counters.
As much resource management, like status.
Exactly.
It's not as
more
heavy
action
on
RPG.
So I really like that. You have these like different arrow types, the Terror Blast arrow, the Sonic arrow, whatever it's called, where like you shoot the plates like come off. That's so like satisfying to use.
It is,
and it's also very strategic in its own way because you have to learn the behavior of these animals. It's not just like a Pokemon like rock paper scissors thing, but you have to like learn it's like Bloodborne or Dark Souls. You have to learn their like patterns and stuff like that. Sure. At first you meet like a long leg, you're like, holy crap, how am I gonna kill this? But then you sort of learn its breastplate is fairly vulnerable. It has canisters on its back. So
and you move on to giant alligators.
Yeah, it's sort of them communicating that very simply just by sort of like coloring the canisters yellow, or like when you shoot it like a shield point is like purple or something like that. Like they communicate that very well, so it's very satisfying to learn the behavior.
Every weakness isn't shown right there and then when you're looking. You can look in the database and it will show, but it only highlights it when you're looking at that specific part, so it's not giving you the entire picture.
Did you guys make use of all of the weapon types? Because
totally.
You did. I actually found myself telegraphing through the main regular bow, the sniper bow, and like the electric/ice bow. But like those are the only three I used. I didn't touch the slingshot, cannons.
I didn't touch a lot of them. I basically went for the ones that were most versatile for the elemental counters.
Good call.
But I didn't touch a lot of like the war bows and stuff like that.
I did. I found a hard time using that one per se.
Yeah, because it was low damage, high element.
Yeah.
But other things sort of filled those roles as well.
I wish they incorporated made you use more of those other weapon types. If I was forced to.
Probably on very hard, you'd have to resort to a lot of these.
That's true. I played on easy, so I beat it with.
I did feel the semi burning because I actually like feel like I was limiting myself if I only played with a few weapons at a time. Like, oh, I'm not getting the most out of the game. I'm cutting myself short. So I did try to look for situations like, oh, let me think about this really hard. Which weapon's gonna be the best? And also, stealth kills in that game are hilarious.
They're overpowered.
Stealth kills. I went through the whole game just like hiding in the grass, whistling. They would come over, stab, and then just headshot everyone else. Like it was so easy, but it was a lot of fun.
It is.
Yeah. Any other gameplay aspects that you?
No, I mean fast travel wasn't a problem. You can even like hitch a ride.
I like how they made you earn the fast travel.
Yeah, you can buy one that's unlimited, but it's like a little later.
I got
that mid game, but up until then I was having a blast just exploring.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the world is beautiful. Climbing on the tall necks, like really unforgettable sort of moments like that.
Yeah. So it's not Zelda climbing, but it's...
No. Don't compare. Don't compare it to Zelda.
Just exploring like the ruins of Colorado. That was beautiful.
Oh yeah, everything that allude to a previous civilization, what they call regular trinkets that we know.
You could like see the old Air Force Academy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In Colorado Springs. Yeah. It's very cool.
So phenomenal game overall, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
It's one of my favorite games of all time, like top 5.
Absolutely, I agree. So, cool. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. Thanks for watching, and you can follow us, get in touch with us on social media. I'm on Twitter @JRSTerrier.
I'm on Twitter. I haven't memorized it.
Family Begin by.
All right, there we go. Fine.
At JH Russell 94, I think.
Great. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.
Peace.